This is a typical exam-style question where I want to solve this quadratic equation. You can do this using routine algebra. The interesting thing about this kind of question, though, is that when examiners come to mark it, they often find that it's quite poorly done. In this clip, I'm going to show you a step-by-step approach to this kind of question, which will make it more accessible. This is what the question would look like on an exam paper. It's a quadratic equation, so we know that we're going to get two answers. Because it says give your answer to 2 decimal places, that tells us that we're not going to be able to factorise this. Instead, we're going to have to use the quadratic equation formula, which looks like this. In the formula, you'll notice that along with our x, we've got the letters A, B, and C. I'm going to show you what these stand for first of all. A appears twice, and it's the number in front of x squared in the equation. We call it the coefficient of x squared. In this particular one, A is 6. B appears twice as well, and B is the number in front of the x. Be careful to include the sign as well. So in this case, B is positive 5. C only appears once, and C is this number here. We often call it the constant. Again, remember to include the sign, so in this case, C is negative 2. In our formula, the key to the whole question is this part here. This bit is so important that it's even got its own name. It's called the discriminant. And if you go on to study A-level maths, you'll look into this in much more detail. Because this bit is absolutely crucial, it's going to be the first part that I do in my working. So now we're back to our question as it would appear on the exam. The first step to solving it is to write down what A, B and C are. So A is 6, B is 5, and in this case it's positive 5, so I can just write 5, and C is negative 2, so I've got to make sure I write minus 2 and I put this in brackets. Now I'm ready to work out the really important part of the equation. That's b squared minus 4ac. Now I need to substitute in the values for a, b and c. So I start with b, that's 5, and it's squared, so we've got 5 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 6, times c, which is minus 2. I can work this out using a calculator, and I get 73. So I now know that this part here is 73. I'm going to substitute b and a into the rest of the equation now. So I've got x equals minus b, that's going to be minus 5, plus or minus the square root of this, which is 73, divided by 2 lots of a. A is 6, so that will be 12. Now, as you know, we're looking for 2 answers for our quadratic, and we get them from this bit here. We need to do this once with a plus and once with a minus. So my first answer is given by x equals minus 5 plus the square root of 73 divided by 12, and my second answer is given by x equals minus 5 minus the square root of 73 divided by 12. We can get the answers by typing this and this into our calculator. When you type this in, you need to put brackets here and here. Typing this in gives me 0.30 rounded to 2 decimal places, and typing this in gives me minus 1.13 rounded to 2 decimal places. These are my 2 answers to my quadratic equation. So to summarise, we use 4 steps when answering this type of question. Step 1 is to write out what A, B and C are. Step 2 is to work out the value of b squared minus 4ac using substitution. In step 3, we can now write this in a nicer way using our answer from step 2, like this. In step 4, we get our two answers using the plus part here and the minus part here and typing them into a calculator. Here's a question for you to try now, but we're going to break it down into the 4 steps. So first of all, I'd like you to do step 1. That's writing down what A, B and C are. Press pause and have a go. When you're ready to carry on, press play. So you should have got that A is equal to 3, B is equal to, now here we've got plus x, that must be plus 1x, so B is equal to 1, and C is equal to minus 7. Remember, when you've got a negative number, put it in brackets. Now I'd like you to do step 2. That's to work out the value of b squared minus 4ac. Press pause and have a go. When you're ready, press play. So you should have written b squared minus 4ac. Substituted in the value for b, that's 1, so 1 squared, minus 4 times a, that's 3, times c, that's minus 7. Now you can use your calculator to get the answer for this part, which is 85. Make sure when you do this step you do actually write this out and show you're working. This is all part of the question and it will get you marks. Now I'm going to ask you to do step 3. Remember, step 3 is rewriting this using this number to help you. Press pause and have a go. When you're ready, press play. So you should have that x equals minus b, which is minus 1, plus or minus the square root of this part here, which is 85, divided by 2a, so that's 6. Finally, I'm going to ask you to do step 4. This is to split this up, once with a plus and once with a minus, to get 2 answers, and use your calculator to work them out. Press pause and have a go. When you're ready, press play. So you should have written this once just using the plus, minus 1 plus root 85 over 6, and remember to put the top in brackets, and then you should have written it again using the minus. You should have then put this into the calculator, and you get 1.37 to 3 significant figures, and minus 1.70 to 3 significant figures. If you've got these 2 answers, then you've correctly answered this question. Here's another one for you to try without me taking you through all the steps this time. Press pause and have a go. When you've got your final answers, press play. Here are the answers. Now this question has got one slight little complication in it, but the steps are still the same. So in step 1, we write down A, B and C. I get these values, and you can see that B is a negative. This is the complication. I'll show you what I mean as I go through. Then I do step 2, which is to work out b squared minus 4ac. The answer for this is 89. To get this right, you need to type this into your calculator exactly as it appears here. Notice that the minus 5 is in brackets and that the squared is outside of the bracket. In step 3, I need to use this to rewrite this in a nicer way. So I've got x equals minus b. That's minus this, so I've got minus 5. Plus or minus the square root of 89 divided by 2 lots of a, that will be 4. Now here's another complication. We've got minus 5, but we take this in our stride. We know that that's actually plus, so we've got 5 plus or minus the square root of 89 divided by 4. I complete step 4 in my usual way by writing this out once with a plus, once with a minus, and then using a calculator to get the answers. These are the two final answers for the question. Here's one of those for you to try. Press pause and have a go. When you're ready for the answers, press play. Here are the answers. Now, the bad news is that in a real exam situation, you won't be given this formula. You've got to memorise this yourself. When you do a question, that means you've got a new first step, which is to actually write down the formula before you begin and then proceed in the usual way. In the next few questions, this formula won't appear on screen. So here are two more questions for you to try. Press pause and have a go at them. When you're ready for the answers, press play. Here are the answers. Practice makes perfect, so here are another two for you to try. Press pause and have a go. When you're ready, press play. Here are the answers.